This is Three of Skeins Knitting Crochet Podcast, episode 109, and I'm Lisa.
I'm Chris.
How y'all doing? I don't know about you guys, but we have had snow all day today.
Oh, Lord have mercy.
It is a winter wonderland outside.
No, there's no wonderland.
And that means we
It's
have
more
not stepped
of
foot out in it.
Frozen Hellscape.
Okay, so as you see, we have different perspectives on winter.
Yeah.
Wonderland, Hellscape. There you go. Well, I'm going to start off with my current project. I am making the duck sweater. Those of you who've been following along, I've been talking about this duck sweater for a minute. I got it going. This is the back. It's a stockinette sweater. And I'm using Barocco Vintage because this is a sweater for my niece. And I like to gift knits for kids, especially, that are easy care. So Barocco Vintage is wool and acrylic, and it will wash and dry very nicely. I'm working it on, the body is in 5mm, and I started the ribbing on 4.5mm needles. And I am using straight needles.
The granny sticks.
Crystal's been calling them granny sticks.
She broke out the granny sticks, y'all. I have not seen anyone actually knit on these. Probably since I started watching people knit and crochet on YouTube, because no one's using the granny sticks.
Let me tell you why. Okay.
See, what had happened was.
What had happened was I noticed in the last few things I've knit, I had a rowing out issue. And rowing out means that there's such a difference between the tension of your knits and your purls that it creates these horizontal lines in your knitting. And I found it distracting. Every time I see my weekender sweater on camera or in a picture, I just look at those lines and it's driving me
You're the only
crazy.
person who notices that, because she wears the sweater all the time.
Oh yeah, I wear
I've
it.
never once noticed the
I
thing
wear it
she's
to
talking
death.
about.
Wear it to death, I do. But, so I that led me on a quest to find a solution for rolling out. So since it was a tension issue, I tried using different needles. And these straight needles gave me the best result that I was able to get just by swatching and swatching
You're gonna
and
make a
re-swatching.
whole sweater on these things.
You see it's happening.
I know.
She seemed appalled at me. Okay, so she acted like I went outside, broke two branches off a tree, and came back in and started
time
knitting.
traveled or something.
Wow.
I'm
Okay.
like, are you knitting by lantern?
You know, circular needles were invented, in the 60s, 70s? I don't even know, but they're pretty recent.
Right.
Before that,
You
all
went-
knitting was done on straight needles.
That's still decades, Lisa. You went back.
Anyway,
She doing some throwback knitting, y'all.
getting back to the
Old
solution to the
school.
problem. Now, just changing to these needles, while it helped my rowing out issue, it did not eliminate it completely. What I ended up having to do is change my style of knitting, which leads to the first little drama I had with this sweater. So I normally knit Western style, which means that the leading leg of the stitch sits on the front of the needle, like that. So picture a little man on a horse, the leading leg faces me. Well, I found that if I knit combination style, it really reduced my rowing out to almost nothing. Now, I still have a little bit because sometimes I would just go back to my normal knitting style and I didn't notice, but it's nothing like actually having stripes in my knitting. So combination style means my purls sit in the normal direction, but my knits have the leading leg on the back of the needle. So I have to knit each knit stitch through what would be the back of the stitch, but it's actually the leading leg. Okay, you look confused.
I am. I assume you knitters know what you're talking about.
I knit through the back of the stitch and turn the stitch back around. Otherwise, it will be twisted. But doing it that way really equalized the tension between my knits and my purls. much more, and I just have way less growing out, and I'm happy at last. Now, I got this pattern from the Knitter's Handy Book of Patterns by Ann Budd. I absolutely love this book. Love, love, love. Because it has patterns, just basic patterns for all manner of commonly knit goods, from sweaters to cardigans to hats and gloves. But it's not row by row patterns. What you would normally do is knit a swatch, pick your gauge and your size, and it's written for, I think, 7 gauges. And you just pick your gauge, pick your size, and off you go with all the basic instructions. So if you want to create something more decorative, you can, but the basic shapes are all here. Bingo, no fuss, no muss. So I did have to start the back over again. Why did I start the back over? Oh yeah, here we go. My gauge was just fine, but I realized that I was gonna make the sweater fit exactly. And I know my niece likes things to fit a little bit looser. So rather than knitting a 36 bust, I'm knitting a 38 bust. And that's why I ended up starting over again. So the decorative element, why it's called a duck sweater, is because what I will be doing on the front is adding this intarsia duck on the front of the sweater. So it'll be a combination of intarsia and duplicate stitch in the colors that I've colored in. So what I found a chart for, it's a different craft. I'm not sure what it's called, but people use these little plastic, they look like sections of straw, they're little cylinders, and they make little designs out of them. So I adapted one of those patterns that I found for free on Pinterest so that I could put it on my duck sweater. What I will be doing though is blowing this up so it'll be bigger and easier to use. I think that's all that's going on with the duck right now.
Just ducking along.
And I'm just ducking.
Oh, my granny sticks.
Granny sticks. She was really perturbed by that. And I baked a potato in the oven. She was like, what?
I'm just saying, who's still doing that? Because how long does it take?
It takes about an hour.
It takes an hour compared to putting it in the microwave. She swears she can taste the difference. I cannot. Maybe I just be hungry. But
there's a textural difference and a flavor difference.
I'm going to take your word for it, but I'm still going to nuke mine.
I'm not saying it's bad to nuke it. It's just when I have time, I do them in the oven.
You know, I'm just saying you'd have a potato a lot faster. But okay. I have a small finished object. See what had happened was. So a few videos back, we showed you some inspo pics, things we've been collecting from TV shows or whatever. And I showed you this scarf, and it was a really simple scarf, an infinity scarf. And it was kind of like a color block thing. So one section was just solid gray, and then the rest of the scarf was yellow and white stripes. And I was like, that's really cute, really simple. I like it. And so I'm just, puttering around the house and looking at my yarns. And I have this yarn that I have been wanting to use for so long because it's like all these pretty pinks and black and white. And I have a striped yarn, I have a speckled yarn, and then I had a solid pink. And I was like, oh, these three together are just gonna look amazing, and I'm gonna make my scarf out of this. So I start swatching, and I'm just like, I don't wanna make my scarf out of this. Because it turns out I did not want the scarf to be fingering weight. Y'all know I love my fingering weight yarn, but I felt like I needed some chunks, some bulk, some heft. And so I had this yarn that I bought sometime last year, and I had one skein in black and one skein in off-white, and I did not know what I was going to do with it. And I was like, now I do, because it's a tied-on yarn, so they just take different fibers and tie knots all along the way to change the different fibers. and that became the striped section of my scarf. So the yarn is called, the brand is Fezza, and the yarn is called Alp Dazzle. And I just did all single crochet because you're not trying to do different stitches with this.
Yeah.
And so this became the striped section of my scarf. Then I was like, well, what am I gonna do with the other side? Because I wanted something that had like maybe a little bit of texture for it. So something would be a little tweedy or something. It had to be the right weight because it turned out chunky wasn't what I wanted. I wanted more like of a worsted. Mm-hmm. And I went through so many different yarns and I couldn't find anything I liked. And then it dawned on me very late at night that if you hold 2 strands of fingering together, you get a worsted. And immediately I went to my stash and I found what I wanted to use. If you remember last year, Joanne had some yarn they were calling hand dyed.
Oh yeah.
But I bought some 100% cotton. And again, I had 1 skein each of 2 different colors. And I didn't know what I was going to make with them. So they became, held together, they became the other half of my scarf. So one of these was a purple speckles. So it was a white background with purple speckles. And then the other yarn has a little bit of a sparkle to it. And it is called Periwinkle. And together, they are my infinity scarf.
I had no idea you created a textile like that.
So what I did with the finger weight yarns, one side is back loop only, so I have a little bit of texture. And so I did back loop only every other row so that my texture only appeared on one side of the yarn. So I can wear it double and it'll basically like come down to my waist. We'll put in a picture. Mm-hmm. But it is also long enough for me to actually triple. And now I get all of this coziness around my neck.
Nice.
So they had 2 versions of this yarn at Joanne. One was 100% cotton, and that's what I used here. They don't seem to have the cotton anymore, but you can still get the 100% merino. I saw that on their website. But it's called KNC, which stands for knit and crochet, and they were calling the yarn, like the name of the yarn was hand dyed, so it's not actually hand dyed, but you know,
KNC hand
like
dyed.
if you like hand dyed, I'm stuck in my scarf. Okay. But I'm thrilled with how she came out. I had put together a whole cute little outfit with it, with some purple and. Okay, let's calm it down. But I love it. Oh my gosh. So if you remember, we talked about our ideological underpinnings for our making this year. And one of the things I want to do is make more accessories. And so I started my year off with a cute little accessory. And man, am I happy with it. She's cute. She's cozy. I love the solid and the stripe together. I actually have an idea for like a different version of a scarf that's part solid, part striped. I'm gonna be working on that one soon. But yeah, I ended up making it, I don't remember how wide it was, but I had a store-bought infinity scarf and I basically just used that to take my measurements from.
Yeah.
And it's just giving me this really full, cozy scarf. I never do stuff like on this scale, like really big like this. So this was fun for me. This was, first of all, she went pretty quickly.
Sure did.
This only took a few days to make. But although all the yarns that like I didn't end up using, I wound those. So that took a little time because I was winding a lot of yarn and then not using it. But eventually I did have a finished scarf. And I love it. So she's actually just half and half.
Wow.
With the purple and the stripe.
And it comes together so dramatically for being such a simple construction.
So this is actually the 3rd thing I've made with a tied-on yarn. I think I can now safely say that that's kind of my thing because I made a vest with Ellen Cooper's Yarn Sonnets, and then I made a skirt from another Feza yarn. I think that was called Alp Oriental. And that one came with these fun little tassels, so I added them to the bottom of the skirt, so I have like this great fringe. And now I have my scarf. I'm a fan. I like, you know what? Because I like to keep things simple. This is all single crochet. Tied-on yarns give you texture. They give you kind of a, they give you a little bit of wow factor without you having to do anything. You don't have to change the way you work, and you don't have to change the kind of stitches you use, and you'll still just get, so my skirt technically, she kind of widens and narrows a little bit just because there's so many different yarns in here that the gauge is all over the place. So some of these are really fine eyelash yarns, and then there's like a really thick ribbon yarn in here and everything in between. And I did carry the yarn up the side, which you can see a little bit, but who cares? Like, I'm fine with it. But yeah, it was so simple. It was a very relaxing make, I have to say. I feel like this was a great project to just start my maker's year off with.
And you got so much drama out of it.
I know.
So drama.
I love it. I absolutely love it. Because it's almost like I have like 2 different scarves on, but in one, and just happy. Very happy. So that is my first project of the year. Oh, I should tell you. So this is just called my striped scarf because I decided to stop giving my projects really cute little names because sometimes I forget the names. Because I named them based on basically like kind of the story of how I made them. And sometimes you forget the story because it was like so in the moment and then you move on to something else. So now my projects are just going to have very practical names. So this is just the striped infinity scarf. And that's just how we're going to do going forward.
Okay, that's reasonable.
What do you have for us, Lisa?
Well, I wanted to talk about my Vogue project journal. So I'm not affiliated in any way, but I've been using it. So I wanted to highlight how it's been going. It's been going good. I was worried because I'm a sequential page turning sort of girl.
What does that mean?
Meaning I like to just go to the next page.
Oh, like kind of bullet journal. Just
go to the
stream
next
of
page.
consciousness.
Yes.
I don't like that.
And the way this is set up, it's set up by project. So there are clusters of pages dedicated to a project. And then in the back, you can just continue on with, if you need more room for writing. So you know what? It's okay. I'm not upset about it because I can direct myself to pages about a particular project within the project pages that are allotted to it. But I think it's a really organized, like things that it might not occur to me to write down. I now have because there's a place already kind of marked out for that detail, I have a place to put that detail. And now
so what are the sections of the book if it's not just like straight?
Okay, so the sections are like this. You have design tips and some, how to use this journal. You have how to draw schematics. And then you'll get to your first project page. So the project page is set up so that you have the name of the project designer, start date, end date, all of that. Then you can list your yarn, then your needles, any notions you use, the measurements of the person you're making this for, and your gauge. Oh, I forgot to tell you guys, my gauge changed. I changed the way I was knitting. That was part of why the thing was coming out too small. Because it came out exactly 18 inches for the back, and that's, no ease. But my gauge changed because I changed my method of knitting.
Well, yes, of course.
And I thought I was going to get away with it.
Oh.
Because when I first measured, it was still okay. No.
Oh, Fraser, there's always a challenge.
So there's a place to write down your gauge. So I used the original back as my new gauge swatch. Mm-hmm. So I was able to write down the change in my gauge. And I went from a 4.8 stitches per inch to a 5 stitch per inch exactly. I've actually never knit 5 stitches per inch before. Never.
There's magic in them granny sticks.
There is. But now I won't have to, wonder. I wonder what size needle I used. And then I drew my schematic. So all the measurements I need are there. And I showed you guys earlier, there's even a place for color work charts should you need them. Oh, and my chart was a little bit wide for the actual page. So I just cut out another page and glued it together.
You made a tip-in.
I made a tip-in so that I would have enough room on one sheet to drop my duck. Colored it in with colored pencils. But yeah, overall, I really like it. And I think it's going to give me enough room to do whatever I need to do across the year. And I think there's room for 21 projects.
So each section has a graph paper, a dot grid.
And the form for recording things on your project. And your projects are numbered. So I think it's pretty cool. I really like it. All right, guys.
I'm kind of like working on making my own little system for that. I'm just getting started using it, so we'll talk episodes down the road.
Oh, and by the by, normal retail price is $17.95, but I got mine for $11 because they were on sale. So go to the Vogue website and check for sales. Matter of fact, I had gotten the email that these were on sale, so I actually got 2 of them.
Okay. Some of y'all had asked about the kitty cat tee. So, well, technically the tank top. But when we showed all the things we made last year, I forgot this because I couldn't remember if I'd made it last year or the year before for some reason. And when I went through the pictures on my phone, I was like, nope, that's dated 2023. So apparently I made this last year. So she's just a silly little tank top. The inspiration for this was actually an anime I can't remember the name of. I think it was something like Apartment Complex something. I forget. But there's a little girl in the thumbnail. There's a little girl wearing a dress like this. And I fell in love with the idea of the cat ears being the top of the dress. And so I just made mine a tank top. And so I made my cat ears in a contrast color. And I used intarsia across the row, so they're outlined in the black, but then the inside is white. And then when the whole thing was done, I just embroidered a little cat face on it. So eyes, nose, and whiskers. This is all seam crochet. And to do the triangles, I don't remember exactly what my decreases were. I think I decreased every other row. Yeah, I think that's what I ended up doing because I wanted to do 2 decreases per row so I could decrease on either end. So I did it every other row instead of decreasing 1 stitch every row. To just make the little triangles at the top. I could have measured my triangles a little bit better because now I realize I'm trying to work on another tank top and I'm realizing you want your triangles to be short and wide or else you get a little bit of side boob. So I will probably be wearing, something under this, just for a little bit of modesty. But other than that, I'm very pleased with how she came out. This yarn, I think it's called Haiku Pop Cycle because it is made from recycled plastic bottles. And wearability, how comfortable that's going to be might be an issue. So this will be a cooler weather tank top, more spring than summer. But it feels great. Like, I don't know how they get that plastic so smooth.
That's like soda bottles.
Yeah.
They up nicely, huh?
They do. I think it's maybe it's a DK. I don't know what weight. I don't remember what weight this is, but it gives you a fairly dense fabric, at least if you use all seam crochet, and that's of course what I did. And then in the back where I combined the black and the white, I just did a few little spike stitches because I wanted to kind of reference claws a little bit. So I just thought that was a cute little detail to add. So I think
really
every third stitch is a spike stitch. But yeah, that's it. That's all I did. And then on the back, I also did decreases. So this is not a straight edge. This is, decreases some just so that it mimics what's happening in the front with the ears.
And you do that in 2 pieces and then sewed it together?
Yeah, so just a front and back and seamed it at the sides. Super simple. Very cute. And this is my kitty cat top.
That's really fun.
This got me wanting to do like more embroidery on my crochet, but we're not there yet because I didn't know what I was doing. And like this was the last time we were in the seasonal yarning YouTube hop. And which meant I had a deadline. I don't usually have a deadline for my crochet projects, but I had a deadline. So I finished the top and I had to give it a cat face in very short order. So I got some yarn out and I was just like, okay, cat face.
Okay.
And it's okay, it's recognizable, and I think that's what's important.
I think it's really cute.
Wait, is she going with my scarf though? Is that what's happening?
I think she is.
Okay, yeah.
And another outfit was born.
But that's all. People ask, what I did and what I always do, all single crochet. There's very little mystery usually. But yeah. That's my cat face kitty cat top. And turns out I did make it in 2023.
Look at here.
So we should talk about Japanese yarn.
Ooh.
Because, let me tell you what happened. Let me tell you a story, because there's always a story. I was online looking at yarns, and I'm always looking for yarns that I can get on a budget. And so my go-to for that is usually the closeout section on webs and a website called Discontinued Yarns. And so I'm looking at both of these websites and seeing a lot of yarn that I want. And some of them was little as like $5.50 a ball. And I was like, yes, I want that and that and that and that and that. And I was, thinking about what my budget was and how much I was going to get. And then it just like hit me, you keep talking about how much you like this brand, Ito, and you want to try more of their yarns. And the thing is, most of the yarn stores in my area don't sell them, doesn't sell Ito. Webs doesn't have any Ito yarns at all. And I was like, instead of buying more yarn, but, less expensive yarn, but getting more of it, why don't you, use that same budget to buy this slightly more expensive Ito yarn, but a little bit less of it, 2 or 3 skeins, as opposed to getting like 10 skeins of something that might be less expensive because you keep talking about wanting this particular yarn. And so that is what I have decided to do. I will be reserving much of my yarn purchasing budget for this year for what I am informally referring to as my Ito of the Month Club. Meaning each month I'm going to buy one yarn that I like from Ito and, just get a handful of skeins, just enough to make a small thing. And what I'm thinking I want to do is make something not exactly the same, but similar tank tops or t-shirts out of each of the yarns so that I can kind of compare them, see how they behave differently, how they wear differently, what it's like to work with each one when I'm doing much the same thing with them. I feel like by kind of normalizing the projects I make, I'll get to really examine the differences in the various yarns. So I do have some yarn from another Japanese brand. To make sure I have the right bag. So this is a brand actually called Habu. And this yarn is very similar, very reflective of what I will get when I'm ordering from Ito. And so I'm working on, this was thinking of a tank top, but I have 900 yards of this. It's enough to make a t-shirt. And I think I might just go ahead and make a t-shirt because this yarn feels so good that I just want to have more of it on my skin. But this is a 100% silk. But again, it's not that smooth, slippery kind of hand that you're used to thinking of when you think of silk. It's a little like textured a little bit. Now, when I was on the Ito website, so it's actually a lace weight, and y'all, here's the thing. Lace weight could become my new thing.
Ooh.
And I'm just like, sometimes, it takes me a while to finish a thing at fingering weight. Lace weight's going to take me even more time, and you would think that maybe I would want to address the amount of time it takes by using bigger yarn, but no. Me being the genius that I am, I'm like, yeah, let's hit up that lace weight, yo. But this fabric is stunning. I mean, it's just, I should steam it, but it's just going to wear so beautifully, and it's going to be so comfortable. I started at a 2 millimeter, and the stitches were too tight. But if I had a lighter color, the thing is, I think I would have stayed at the 2 millimeter. But sometimes it was hard to see the two loops just because this is a darker color. So I did go up to a 2.5, and very smooth settling, very easy to work with. And I was on the Ito website reading about one of their yarns as a cotton, and I think the process they were describing on their website.
I'll be back. Sorry, the yogurt's ready.
So she makes yogurt in this bread maker we have, and the bread maker sends up this alarm like something's on fire. It beeps like 10 times.
Oh yes, it won't stop until you.
Yeah. So it's a very aggressive beep. But the process I think they did with this, basically you dye the yarn, and then you do something to it that kind of breaks the dye on the surface. So you see little bits of undyed yarn in between, and that's how you get this kind of tweedy texture.
Oh,
so
love a tweed.
There's a little bit, yeah, you can see it better on the skein. So see all those little bits of white? I think that's just undyed silk that they have poking through because they broke the dye on the surface of the yarn. So you have the thing about tweeds is that, it's got those little neps and things in there that can affect, your gauge. That won't happen with this, but you're still going to get that tweedy effect. This is 40 stitches across by, I think, 52 rows.
Wow.
Yes. Yeah.
That's going to take a minute.
Yeah. Yeah. But I love it. I absolutely love it. I actually quite enjoyed working with it. I don't know. It really just doesn't bother me working at this gauge. And I was thinking about the fact that, I'm always wondering, am I limiting myself too much by just using fingering weight yarn? But if you go to Ito's website, most of their yarn is fine, very fine gauge, and some of them they tell you, you really meant to hold this with something else or hold it double or something like that. And for that to be kind of the aesthetic of the whole brand, I feel like, okay, sometimes you just work at finer gauges.
Yeah, that's absolutely right.
And I think it's particularly unexpected for the crocheters for some reason, but I like what I like. It's weird, but I prefer, as fast as like this went, and I enjoyed the process of working on it. If I have to choose, it's always going to be this finer, lighter weight, unless I need something that needed to have bulk to it very specifically. Like I would never hold, I don't think, a fingering weight yarn double just to make like a t-shirt or something.
No.
So I'm going to make my little t-shirt out of this while I decide what my first Ito yarn is going to be. This company Habu, I think their website is habutextiles.com. They have some fascinating fibers on there. And I'm like, y'all might be a thing too. I don't know. But yeah, so I'm working on my silk. But yeah, I'm gonna make myself a little silk t-shirt. That's what I'm working on right now. That's officially my whip at the moment.
So what's the gauge on that in stitches per inch?
I haven't measured the swatch yet.
Okay.
So I don't know yet, but
it's gonna be a lot of stitches per inch.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? I might have some yarn for you. Because I've got 3,000 yards of yellow merino. But it's so fine that I don't think I'm ever going to use it.
I don't know why she does this to herself. You know, and we all do that. We all are at a store or something. At the point of sale, we have this person we imagine we're going to be.
Yes.
And then we get home and we are the person we are.
Yes.
And I don't know why we all do that.
I bought this yarn years ago and I'm like...
But she clearly had a moment where she's like, I'm going to be a lace weight girly. No, she's not.
I'm not.
So let me ask you a question. Am I getting that yakagini?
Which yakagini?
Remember we bought the grab bags? And you got this summer we bought grab bags when we came back from
no,
boo.
I
already
have plans for the yakagini.
Just checking because that's fingering weight.
That yellow merino is even finer than the yakagini.
Okay.
I was like, oh girl, I think that yakagini is as fine as I'm gonna go.
Right. It turns out I actually really like working at this gauge.
But if you'll work at that gauge, it's 3,000 yards. You'll figure something out with it.
That sounds like a dress.
Mm-hmm. A dress and a matching stole.
But yeah, you just gotta kind of find the thing that you like. And I realized that I have certain when it comes to wools, merino, yes, I like the kitten yarn. I like the really soft stuff. But I prefer a lot of these other fibers to wool. So I like my silk and my cotton and bamboo and all of the things. Linen.
I'm a linen lover. Yes.
And I'm just kind of wanting to explore a little bit more. On the Ito site, they had this yarn that was a blend of, was it cotton and ramie? Ramie is another plant fiber that it has very similar properties to linen. Mm-hmm. And, I'm intrigued by that. I'm just like, yeah. So you're going to be hearing quite a bit about Ito this year. Just go with it.
2024, the year of Ito.
But yeah, that's what I'm working on right now. I got my FO, got my whip, and I'm ready to go.
Before we go, you done?
Mm-hmm.
I just want to remind you, I will be teaching at Vogue on the 25th and 26th of January. There's still time, and there's a discount code that'll be in the newsletter and in the doobly-doo.
The doobly-doo, she said. But yes, I think that's all we've got this week.
All right. See you next time. Like and subscribe.
Stay stitching.